and good evening. I'm Melissa Idris. Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. The PKR National Congress over the last weekend saw the final lineup for the Central Leadership Council announced, and it was dominated by party leaders aligned to the newly minted Deputy President Rafizi Ramli. Now, some observers of the Congress noted that the internal divisions within PKR continue to fester, and this despite calls to stop the infighting. So what will PKR's new Leadership Council mean for internal party dynamics? And how might it impact the party's relationship with Pakatan Harapan and with its shrinking voter base? Joining us on the line now is newly elected PKR Youth Chief Adam Adley Abdul Halim. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Adam. You are newly elected to this role. Congratulations on the win on being PKR Youth Chief. And I'm hoping we can begin our conversation today, Adam, by getting a sense of how you are viewing in the internal party dynamics. You joined PKR last year after, being a student activist for many years. And as an outsider, Adam, you're joining a party that is completely split with defections and deep divisions. Do you think these divisions, the factionalism that plagues PKR, can be overcome?
Thank you, Melissa, for having me right now. Looking back at when I first joined the party, I remember that one of many things that I addressed would be promise to help the party in its process to rebuild trust among members, to rebuild the unity among the members, especially among the youth, in any capacity that I could. Now that I am the youth, basically the youth chief, even in my last speech during the youth congress 2 days ago, I've said it that I will not condone to the practice of factionalism. I will make sure that there will only be one thing, which is the Angkatan Muda Keadilan. Of course, I acknowledge that there are differences in opinions, in approaches, in strategies, in many things. But it is the responsibility of a leader to be able to manage all these differences. So that's how I look at it.
Okay, so if you think about what you just said, building unity and doing away with factionalism, what is standing in the way of that, Adam? Is it ideology, in terms of whether or not the party should adopt the big tent approach, or is it personality to do with Anwar Ibrahim, who is at the helm of this party, who has actually failed to curb the internal party strife for so many years? What is at the root of the factionalism, and how might it be overcome in terms of how might there be more unity, as you just said?
I mean, I agree that in any organizations there will be many factors that can be a unifying factor. One would be, like you said earlier, ideology, common cause, as well as common enemy. So you just need to pick one, according to time. But ahead of us, there will be the greatest challenge for a political party to win an election. We have a very big mission. We need to win the election, and there'll be no other way but to work together. We've gone through this before. We've gone through many elections before, and everybody knows that you can only win the election if you work together. So if we have this sense of realization that there is no other way to do it, then I believe with a good leadership, then we can basically ensure that the members of the party can see that the importance of moving away from all these factionalisms in order for us to enter the election. So we have the common cause.
So you mentioned leadership, and I'm going to circle back to the issue of leadership, but I do want to look at how PKR is interacting with its shrinking voter base. What is your sense, Adam, of the current public perception towards PKR?
We have to acknowledge that there's a loss of trust, especially among the voters, against what's going on with our politics right now. People are no longer confident. People have lost the trust. People have lost the confidence. People can no longer trust the institution of politics. People think that political parties are all just the same, and we can basically understand this not necessarily because of the party itself, but also because of the circumstances. People are in. I think people are people are having a difficult time right now. Everybody is having a difficult time, and they when they look at you know when they look at the quarrel between politicians, between leadership, they don't feel that there's hope for them. So therefore, they just simply abandon the idea of supporting a political party. That's why I think that it's important for all of us to send a clear message that, look, it's over now. It's over now. It's a fresh new start. We are serious about saving the country. We are serious about making sure that people have hope again. And this can be done. And it's already in the process. I think by calling for a party election at a crucial time like this, knowing that the party is still traumatized by what happened in 2020. So it's a bold step, but it's an important one. I think it's necessary for all of us to go through this. And you see, if we are to look at it as if that PKR especially still divided, it's not. I don't think so. I mean, Rafizi is now the Timbalan president. I mean, he's the deputy president to Anwar Ibrahim. The thing is, we used to have nobody to sit in the deputy seat.
Right.
Right. So now that we have Rafizi to work together with Anwar, isn't that a form of an agreement between where people see that, people think that Anwar and Rafizi keep on disagreeing with each other, but now they are now back in the line.
Okay, that's quite
together.
interesting. So you think the pairing of Anwar and Rafizi will win back some confidence from PKR's voter base, or even win over some new voters? Is that the optimism of this pairing at the top now for PKR?
I mean, when the party decided to finally put an end to all these issues that we've been having, we call for a party election. We try to solve it democratically, and we leave the big decision to the members of the party. Remember that this party, our election is one man, one vote. It's not being decided by just selected few. It will be decided by the whole of the party. 80 or over 1,000, if I'm not mistaken, members actually voted in the last party election. So it's a clear signal that this is how the members of the party would like us to move forward.
Okay.
So I think with this, it's sort of like a motivation. It's sort of like a new motivation for the members of the party, especially to finally be back on track.
Adam, what about the youth wing? As incoming PKR youth chief, how are you going to be mobilizing young people as actors? Will the party I guess what I'm asking is, will PKR be doing more than just fielding a few young candidates, because engaging young people goes beyond that. It goes, it goes in terms of outreach. There's recognition of concerns that they have, the delivery of promised reforms. Is PKR going to deliver on all of those thrusts, especially now that you are going to be helming the youth wing?
Yes, of course. We cannot win the election simply by promising more young candidates. I think it's very naive for us to think that people, especially the young people, would just vote because the candidates are young. Um, we need to build the engagement with all sectors of the youth. I mean, it's wrong for us to think that the youth are not, they're not interested in politics. They are not aware of what's going on in this country. They are very aware. So, and I think in the last survey that I was briefed with one survey that indicates that 80 more than 80% of youth that they interviewed actually are prepared to participate in the next coming election compared to what happened in PR and Johor. So therefore, now is the time for us to, to present something to them. What kind of policies? We're not talking about. We're not just talking about the manifesto, but we're also talking what kind of principle and policies that we are presenting to the youth. What kind of government that they can vote in to make sure that they not just benefit from good policies in the next 5 years, but also maybe lifetime. We need to, and for that to happen, we need to have a very strong policies.
Well, that same survey that you cited, Adam, also found that while 80% want to participate in the next general elections, more than 40% are politically on the fence. They're not sure who they want to vote for. And I want to ask you about competition in this respect, because, both PKR and MUDA are reformist parties. Both are multi-ethnic but Malay-led. And there's bound to be an overlap in the electoral market. What is your sense of working with MUDA or competing with MUDA or differentiating PKR youth with MUDA?
We have seen sort of like the alignment in Johor election, remember, where between PH and MUDA, we've initiated something. We've initiated some form of way to look at it. I mean, not necessarily that it worked. It didn't work as well as we expected. Of course, especially when what happened in Larkin, which was very something that challenged the whole idea of working together and all. But there are still room for all of us to think about the best strategy to face this, because we have to understand that MUDA and Keadilan share the same demography. So we have to be able to come up with something. If we are serious about if we are serious about wanting to if we are serious about offering a new leadership or a new government.
Adam, where do you stand on whether or not all opposition parties should stand united against Barisan Nasional? Are you for the big tent approach?
I cannot 100% agree with that kind of approach. There are just so many circumstances. There are just so many things that we have to consider before agreeing to such idea. We have to be able to look into a lot of matters before we can finally come into that kind of conclusion. How about the principle? How about the people behind all this? How about the outlook of the parties? Keadilan is a multiracial party. Same goes to, at least on principle, same goes to DAP as well as Amanah. They don't look at themselves as a single race or single religion party on principle basis. But it's not easy for us to, we've tried this before with Bersatu, remember, and it didn't work that well. So we have to be able to settle this problem first before we can talk about big tent or small tent or big house or anything about it.
All
But
right, Adam.
I believe that we have to respect the will of the people.
Okay.
We need to listen more to what they want. We have to make sure that even if we are to do something, even if we are to take such strategies, we cannot do it just for the sake of power.
Thank you so much for speaking with us. That was newly elected PKR Youth Chief Adam Adley Abdul Halim. We're going to take a quick break here and consider this. We will be back with more. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome back. You're watching Consider This. I'm Melissa Idris. We're discussing the future trajectory of PKR, this following its recently concluded National Congress and the announcement of its Central Leadership Council lineup. Now, can the party's new leadership help PKR recover its lost political ground? Joining us now is Associate Professor Dr. Hamidin Hamid. He's a political analyst at University Malaya. Dr. Hamidin, much ado has been made about PKR's new Deputy President Rafizi Ramli and his perceived ability to turn PKR's political fortunes around. I'm just wondering what you think is in store for this leadership lineup. They are going to likely be leading PKR into the next general elections. What do you think about their prospects in the next general elections?
Thank you, Melissa. I think the recently concluded PKR annual gathering, basically, as you said just now, I like the words you're using, the new trajectory of a PKR, because for us, analysts, we believe that a PKR definitely need a new trajectory after almost since the day one, since 1998, under the helm of the same man. So with that, we do expect a new kind of fresh injection into PKR, and obviously the appointment of Rafizi Ramli, and by him winning the deputy president post, I think that's give a kind of a clear indication that PKR is in transition of power. And then when we look at the appointed and the selected members of Central Committee in PKR, you can see there is a lot of new faces, which is some people argue that it's aligned more to Rafizi and then so to with Vice President. So this is where I think it's really touched the heart of your question. What's going to happen to PKR? I think that is the big question. It's not just about their directions, their trajectory, but how does this bring PKR not only within the party, but also relationship between PKR and other members of PH, and above all, is between PKR and voters. I think this is something that we have to look and analyze. For example, does the new leadership can bring up a new blood, a new way, a new approach in revitalizing a PKR? I think yes, in that sense, for a PKR member.
Can we take a look at exactly what you just said? This pairing of Rafizi Anwar, whether it's a winning combo for voters, for what was previously PKR's base that has now perhaps shrunk a little bit, and also is it a winning combo for Pakatan Harapan? What will this mean for the other parties in the coalition?
I think to answer your question is very interesting. I think first, if we look at that combo between Anwar and Rafizi, does that appeal to the voters, especially the voters that is targeted by PKR? If we look at what happened in Malacca and since 2018 by-election and what happened in Malacca and Johor, it seems that PKR lost very substantially votes among the Chinese and among the Malays voters, especially among the Malays voters. And that's not only happened to PKR, but obviously to the PH. Does that combo can regain back the majority of the Malay voters? I doubt so. I doubt that Rafizi can bring in the Malay voter, because why? I think PKR and Rafizi are not seen by most of the Malay voters as representing their interest. Maybe they appeal to some segment of Malay voter which is already being part of main supporters of PKR, especially in the urban area. But I think Anwar, in a couple of days ago, did admit that it is a problematic for PKR to penetrate. I think the Malay majority seat, especially in the semi and rural, urban and rural areas. And this is where, in my point of view, the consultations for PKR. So does that combo can appeal for that? I doubt so. So this is, I think, where PKR must really think about their strategy. How are they going to work with others? Meaning how they can gain the Malay voters, not directly by them, but with whom they are working within the
Correct.
PKR or within the PH or outside the PH. So the strategy for PKR to associate themselves with other parties, I think, is the key for PKR to regain the voters, not only by the changes in their own leadership.
Well, that's quite interesting because we know famously Rafizi has said he's not a fan of this big tent approach of unifying all opposition parties in the fight against Barisan Nasional in the next elections. He's already said he's not keen on that collaboration. Will we see Rafizi's dominance of the leadership council? Will that signify a beginning of PKR as a singular bloc? Perhaps PKR moving to contest all 22 seats by themselves?
Oh, you're really looking at your crystal ball now, yeah. But I think it is like in the in financial world, because this is a market talk already within people who following Malaysian politics, where there is some rumors that PKR are strongly looking at the opportunity where they can contest but on their own. I think started with even in Johor, when they use their own logo rather than use PH logo, they use their own logo with their belief have more appeal to the voters, but it turned out is a big disaster for them. But anyway, having said that, there is some section of PKR which is, I think, being and that section is strongly influenced by Rafizi, that believe that PKR can stand by his own and then can join be a big bloc in the opposition. However, I think looking at the current situation in Malaysian politics, it is very difficult for PKR to stand alone. It does.
Dr. Midin, can I ask you, so, and the other half of the combo, so we talked about Rafizi, but the other half of the combo is Anwar. And Anwar has come under fire for not curbing internal strife in his party. He has come under fire for some of his electoral decisions or electoral strategies in the past, which you alluded to. Is the issue of succession, and I'm going to cite an Invoke survey, which we have to take with a pinch of salt, given that Invoke is owned by Rafizi Ramli. In that survey, it showed that most of the respondents, half of them PKR members, half of them the public, most of the respondents, over almost 50%, preferred Nurul Izzah as a leader compared to Anwar Ibrahim. How does that jive in the big picture of things in terms of succession? Is Anwar Ibrahim seen to be a liability for PKR's prospects going into GE15?
I think I want to answer that question by looking at the bigger pictures and the bigger context of Malaysian politics, especially the politics of PH. Obviously, I think there is a transition of leadership in DAP from Guan Eng to Tony Loke and the rest. But it didn't. Nothing happened now in Amanah, and nothing happened basically in PKR with Anwar in the helm and Rafizi in the second. And this is where I do believe that for PKR and Amanah, they need what happened in DAP happen in both parties, where there is a clear transition of power between the old to the young. And with that, I do believe for Anwar Ibrahim is no longer become a liability, but I do believe Anwar Ibrahim can jeopardize, in my point of view, the chance of PH to regain more seats. I think this is, I put it that way. It's not just from the Invoke, from our studies at Ilham Center. Also, we noticed that, especially among the young voters, they are very much no longer in favor of Anwar Ibrahim. And in fact, most of the voters, especially the Malay voters that we do survey on, Anwar Ibrahim become third or fourth now of their interest. So with that, I do believe Anwar should, in my point of view, prepared much faster decisions and hand over the realm of especially in counting the strategy on how to work with other parties to Rafizi Ramli. How Rafizi approach, I think that's up to him. He obviously have the mandate of the majority of the PKR membership, but I do believe with Anwar Ibrahim there, I don't see PKR or even PH can gain more from what they have now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hamidin. That was political analyst Dr. Hamidin Hamid wrapping up this episode of Consider This. I'm Melissa Idris signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching and good night.